A full house, baby. Our man Charlie Miller is back. Our buddy Dustin Schutte is here as well as usual. And now joined by Kyler Staley as we are on Mondays to catch up on the weekend recruiting action. The biggest news, of course, Indiana not getting Jamie Kaiser, which not a shock. It looked very good for Indiana after his visit, but then Maryland was able to get him to come back for a subsequent and last visit, which is always a tough selling point, and they were able to get him to commit to the Terrapins, which a loss for Indiana, but nothing. It's not like losing a Charlie Miller or something.
Right. No, it's just they had a 50-50 chance after the visit with Indiana. And then, he goes back on that Maryland visit. He's from that area. So it was going to be hard for Indiana to beat Maryland at that point. And then I think the main thing is that Maryland kind of said, you'll come in, you'll start right away. Whereas IU, you're going to have to compete for minutes, especially next year where you'll have like a second, year of like CJ Gunn, Caleb Banks, and those kind of guys. It was just it was going to be hard to beat and everything, but, you just kind of wipe your feet and you just keep going. It's on to more recruits and you're trying to lock down Ayrton Page and maybe Deshaun Harris-Smith moving forward.
Charlie, when I hear someone tells a recruit you're going to start right away, that tells me one of two things. Either you are a phenomenal talent or this team not so good. I would hope that if I'm coming in as a freshman that I'm not really being told that because the team is good enough that I have to fight for minutes. But I don't know. I know as a player you want to hear that. But being told that, it sounds a little disingenuous by the coach because that tells me the coach is telling his other players in that position, "Hey, you don't have it. You're not starting. We've got a guy coming in if he's starting if he commits."
Couple ways to look at that. One way, as a player, sometimes you are oblivious to what you just said. You don't realize the depth chart is not present. All you're thinking about is I can come in as a freshman and play right away. Wow, what an opportunity, right? And I'm home. I'm from Maryland area. Wow. Now, if you understand the game a little bit, you might have a pause on that because, okay, if I'm playing right away, we may not be as good as we need to be to really build. And we might be in a building stage, what have you, as a team. So I think it's two different schools of thought. But I think the first school of thought, anybody, you come to IU, I think Coach Woodson has been very, it's been blatant. Hey, look, everybody's going to compete. Whoever you are, we're going to compete every year. You have to audition every single game, every practice. Maryland, hey, look, you're going to play right away. So that school of thought is, man, I'm not going to have that opportunity at IU. I'm competing with a lot of players that the depth chart is a lot deeper. And Maryland may not be as deep. So what player would not love that opportunity to have that opportunity to go play right away, especially now in this transfer portal, stuff that we have. To say I can play right away is amazing.
And we talked about earlier, Charlie, a lot of kids develop this kind of confidence, especially now with a lot of attention and the way recruiting works. I would think if somebody tells me I'm going to play right away, hey, I'm going to be the guy that helps get this thing back on the track. I'm going to be the guy like that. To me, that's how I would view that. There aren't a lot of guys that are probably going in thinking, well, I'm going to start right away. So that's not a good sign. They go in confident thinking they can turn it around.
Well, and you said it, and we talked about it briefly. And another thing too, if a coach now like Jim, and I take respect to what he said, the coach might be disingenuous, but if the coach has done homework and research on their program, and they're like, this kid can fit what we're doing, I have to slowly but surely give him 20, 25. Starting, who cares? You might start and play 15 minutes.
Right.
Seriously, right? You may play 15, two minutes here, 5 minutes there. You might be satisfied and say, wait a minute. I'm not getting those quality minutes. Right. So it might be a slowly but surely walk into the idea because they've already qualified it. He fits what we're looking to do on our rotation. It makes sense to kind of slowly but surely walk him into that program.
Kyler, for Indiana, that guard position, it's not a room that is busting at the seams, though. They know that Xavier will be gone next year. You'll have Jalen Hood-Schifino there and CJ Gunn, of course. But it's not like there's guys that are keeping them away. So Indiana is not going to have problems filling the slot. Who is the most likely next up? You've got, of course, Deshaun Harris-Smith, who also took a visit last week as a shooter, but not sure how solid that one is either.
Yeah, as of right now, it's not looking good as far as Indiana, in favor of Indiana. Other schools like Villanova, I believe Xavier is the other one, and then Maryland also as well is in on him as well. It's just, I just don't know if, the player, if we're using Harris Smith as an example, I don't know if he just thinks that, it's the right fit for him for Indiana's sake, and then also in the 2023 class, you've also got Gabe Cupps and Ja'Kai Newton coming in. So, I mean, that is a very loaded, very busy guard room right there. But I mean, the main guy right now that is more likely to commit than all the other players is Arlington Page. At this point, we're just kind of waiting for that. He's a front court player that Indiana needs to have in the 2023 class. So, time will tell if he just commits or not.
And then, of course, he's a big dude, man, and they would do a lot of good with him. And then you had people like Liam McNeely, who is going to take a visit here from down in Texas. Charlie, that's a guy I thought Indiana had no shot at in the beginning of his recruitment. And I wouldn't have changed my mind until he transferred to Montverde Academy beginning next year. He's going to be playing at Montverde in Florida, where Jalen Hood-Schifino has come from, where Malik Renault has come from. So Indiana already has a pipeline there. They're recruiting Derek Queen, KJ Evans. They have an establishment with the coaches there. So now all of a sudden, his recruitment has changed for me. I'm like, oh, okay. And his first official visit is with Indiana. So the fact that I originally didn't think that anyone was going to get him out of Texas. That's off the board to me now, Kyler. I mean, he is. I think he is going to be a national recruit now instead of a Texas recruit.
Yeah, his recruitment's only going to explode. As the year goes with Montverde Academy, he's going to get more offers. I expect schools like Duke, North Carolina, Kansas to be involved when it's all said and done, especially at the start of AAU next season. But no, he's always had his eyes on Indiana. They have made him one of their top priorities in the 2024 class. And basically, when you talk to him and everything, he just said it was a no-brainer for him to go on a visit to Indiana. He respects the school's history, which is really cool to see from a young guy like that. Respects what Mike Woodson has done in the league. He ultimately wants to go play in the NBA, and he likes the style that Mike Woodson plays in. So, I mean, that visit's coming up in September, in which it'll be one of the more important ones. It'll probably be the most important one in the 2024 class for Indiana so far.
Charlie, you were going to say something?
No, yeah, I was going to say, and that's a great point. That used to be a thing back in my day in the 90s, where schools will have you go to prep school to
yes,
because you were on that level. So and it was like you didn't know that but you would go to the schools in New Hampshire, or you would go to Brewster, or you would go to places on the East Coast, because schools didn't hide you, they developed you. So when you came in, you were mature and ready. So I'm not saying this is what I'm hearing, but if it was a no-brainer, he goes to Montverde, and I know there's a pipeline of several players that have already committed to IU. That's a good sign. This kid's really good. That's a really good sign.
Kyler?
No, yeah, I agree. Especially, those private schools. I mean, there's I forget what the league's called, but there's about 6 of them in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if Indiana, as of right now, doesn't really have too big of a pipeline with any of the other schools. But Montverde, they're pretty well connected to Indiana, especially because you got Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renault out of that. And then they've also recruited a lot of other players from that. Derek Queen is another 2024 big man that they're looking at, and eventually will probably get a visit out of. They were recruiting KJ Evans for a little bit, but that kind of obviously dropped off. So, it's very, very good connections with Indiana and Montverde. It is a pipeline, no doubt.
And you got to also think we just sometimes as fans think about the wins and loss as a success. That's not. It's development. It's the future. It's the long game. It's the network of people. It's the Mike Woodson, and not necessarily the network to going to play NBA. He's going to help me become a man, right? I can man, these guys are saying, man, he's teaching me life. Like I'm growing. Like I didn't know these things. Like that. That's kind of like if the players had a Indiana Sports Beat radio podcast. That's what's been. You'll be hearing more stuff like that, not just the wins and losses. And we, had a 5-game losing streak. That's for us. The players, man. This is top notch program. Their school and what they've done here, and that's success that players want to be around to mature for that next 40 plus years of their lives. So Coach Woodson got a good thing going. I tell you that.
Kyler, let's see. Cohen Carr, a name we have not heard much of here of late, and he is making commitment. 2 days. What is today? Today's the 8th. Tomorrow. So
yeah,
not expecting to hear Indiana's name there either, since we have not heard much there. I don't want to make a poor assumption, but from what I've seen, I've not seen IU in a lot of involvement there of late.
No, yeah, that's a good assumption there. Indiana was part of his Final Four schools. They recruited him pretty hard from the start. When he kind of exploded last fall, they got him on a visit, during a game, things like that. But that finger injury, I go back to that at the beginning of the summer. You got to wonder if he didn't have that finger injury and he missed and did not miss all, I think 2 or 3 live periods, for Indiana to see him. You got to think if his recruitment would be a little bit different. But I know Michigan State has hopped in and they've made a strong play as of late. That's another guy that you commit to Michigan State, which Michigan State's already building a very strong 2023 class. But yeah, don't expect him to go to Indiana. He just doesn't kind of fit what they're looking for at this point.
Well, but unfortunately, Charlie, it comes down to another shooter that they're not going to get. And that is something that, if I had to say, are the one thing that they have not been able to kind of put a finger on recruiting wise, it's landing shooters that they're going after. They're landing big guys. They're getting Jalen Hood-Schifino's. CJ Gunn is considered a shooter. You can't say he's not, but other recruits, bigger recruits that they've went after, they've yet to land that shooter. I'm thinking there's probably 4 or 5 guys that I'm thinking of, Kyler, that names that we've gone through that they have not landed yet. And that's the one thing I'm like, okay, why is that? So a little curiosity there.
Yeah, you got to wonder, what is their pitch to shooters and things. I mean, there was a few guys that, they had interest in throughout the year. And I mean, Brady Dunlap is an example. He plays with LeBron James' son.
Well, Cohen Carr is one that they backed off on.
Actually, Cohen Carr, I wouldn't technically count him as a shooter. He's more of a bang it in the rim type of guy. Really just incredible athleticism. He's got an improving jumper, at the summer. Saw a little bit of improvement there, but he's very inconsistent in that area. He's just more of the, give the ball to him at the top of the wing and, let him drive and see what he can do around the paint. But, he's just another guy. Speaking of Cohen Carr, he's just another guy that I don't think Indiana, really just saw a fit for him once they kind of settled down and realized what they need. They desperately do need shooters. They do need to add one more shooter. And if they can, land an Arlington Page or go to the portal to get a big man, I mean, maybe the portal eventually that'll be where they find that shooter. But you also got to think, the development of CJ Gunn, another year of Anthony Leal. I believe it'll work itself out once they have the shooters, but it's definitely a need that they need to have.